Dying Light is one of my favorite games of all time and arguably one of the best zombie games ever made. While the story is pretty bland, the gameplay makes up for it, with it being really fun and engaging with the player. When the game first released, it got pretty bad reviews and people kept bashing on it because the zombie genre was pretty tiring back then.
It is a 6 out of 10.
Very disappointed. It runs like shit as well. It runs absolute crap, even on a top end rig. I mean, you got to turn everything down. At the end of the day, it's Dead Island. It's just Dead Island. I mean, that's what it is. But it should be a Dead Island DLC. I mean, you get a new map, you get a new campaign, and you get some side quests. But at the end of the day, it's not worth £40.
What you have to know is that most people who played Dying Light back in the day, like in 2015, were really tired of the zombie games, because you got games like Left 4 Dead, Dead Island, then you got Dead Island, Riptide I think it was, then you got other zombie games. I think Dead Rising even came out in the same year as Dying Light, so people were kind of tired of playing the same like games set in a zombie apocalypse. Even back then when I first played Dying Light, I just loved the feel of it and I felt engaged with the story, even though it's really bland and generic, let's be honest. But even though the story is pretty bland, it still does interesting things and can be pretty engaging at moments. And I just have to say that I hate these people who clearly hating Dying Light 1 when it first released, and now because the game has been really updated and it's really good, like nowadays people just like praise the game like, oh, this is the best game ever, holy shit, this is the best zombie game and shit like that. No, I'm the OG, alright? I have over like fucking, I don't know, 400 hours on Dying Light 1. I love it. I almost have all the achievements except for this one, which I'm not gonna go into because I can literally make a 40-minute video on why this fucking achievement should be out of the game. For me, it was quite interesting seeing the reviews when the game first came out and was like, oh, a 6 out of 10, a 4 out of 10, a 5 out of 10, it's generic and bland and shit like that. But then when you look at the reviews now, I'm pretty sure like on Steam, Dying Light has like very positive, and like I think IGN even bumped up the score from like a 6 out of 10 to like a 8 out of 10. Or I'm pretty sure even IGN, the one time IGN gave an honest review, and they gave like Dying Light 1 a 8 out of 10 I think in the beginning, so that was really cool. I just have to say, I just love Dying Light so much. Like, just the setting, starting off in the inner city of Harran and then later on going to the old town, going to like the high rooftops, you know, you can do more parkour. It's way more brighter there, it's not as depressing and gray as the first area. And I just have to say, like, the people who made Dead Island 1 made Dying Light 1, so I think it's pretty safe to say they know how to make a really good zombie game. With all of that out of the way, you can't really talk about Dying Light without talking about the parkour. In the beginning of the game, the parkour feels kind of slow and tedious, but it gets really good as you level up your character and get better weapons, and eventually you get the grappling hook. It builds sort of a connection between the game character and the player, with like starting off really weak and like you don't know what you're doing. Oh no, I'm tripping over here, and then as you level up you're getting better at things. You're like, oh shit, yeah, because I'm used to the city, I know when I'm going to this corner I need to turn left, you know, and I know there's a weapon spawn in this corner of the map because I've already been here, and you feel like a little bit more immersed. It's a small thing, but I think it's really cool. It's just the simple things such as swinging your weapons, trying to get past zombies, and of course getting better at parkour and shit like that. I honestly think Techlance must have played like 100 hours straight of Mirror's Edge and was like, yeah, this parkour is really cool, but imagine if we put it in our zombie game. I think a normal person who plays this game that isn't quite interested in the story can still play this game for hours at a time and not get bored just because of how fun the gameplay is in its core. Just running around, dropkicking every zombie you come across, just shooting them with shotguns, throwing knives at them, just grappling them like towards the edge, just pushing them off. Everything is just so much fun. You don't even have to fucking kill the zombies if you're a pacifist. You can just run around, do some parkour, and it's still fun. You can do that for fucking hours. So Dying Light also has a day and night cycle. Dying Night. And basically the game changes quite a bit when it's nighttime, with the volatiles being like the most powerful zombies in the universe as of Dying Light 1 are hunting you throughout the night, and there are different stages to like the chase you have. So you might have like a GTA wanted level with 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, and the more chase levels you have, the more volatiles are gonna be after you, and I just fucking love it. And the reward you get for going outside at night, because like it is really scary if you don't have the proper equipment, like a good weapon, good armor, good a lot of med kits, grenades and shit like that, you won't make it. But the reward aspect of it is that your XP doubles or triples or quadruples depending on how much you've been staying outside and what wanted level you have. And there's a special zombie that spawns at night that gives you like a special bolter tissue, I think it is, and it has some value, so it might be a really good way to make some money early on in the game, where you're just finding these fuckers, just killing them and selling some of the tissues, because you can actually buy some really decent guns early on in the game, but you just need the cash for it. This game released in 2015, and to this day I think the game looks beautiful. Yeah, you can see like it looks kind of like Left 4 Dead or like Dead Island, but I think it's still beautiful, especially during the night when the different lampposts and like the different shades of the shops, like the neon signs, your flashlight shining on different objects, is all just so immersive. And it's really weird for me to say this, that the night cycle and the night is really good, because most of the games I play, especially like when they're set in the nighttime, it's really hard to see anything. They just fuck everything up. And even though you have a flashlight, like the main center is just a like little circle area behind your flashlight, and the rest is just pure darkness. You cannot see anything, but it's not like that in Dying Light. The nighttime is really fucking good. Okay, I just have to say this real quick. So basically there's like a baby zombie in Dying Light, and I remember the first time I met him, because you get a cutscene saying, because he like screams and like fucking you cannot do shit. I'm like, oh yeah, he's probably protected, you know, you probably won't be able to kill a baby zombie. Well, I was fucking wrong. You can kick that motherfucker into outer space for all I care.
Okay, show me.
But like I mentioned before, the game came out in a pretty rough state where everybody was like kinda mediocre, and instead of leaving the game and not doing anything with it like EA, they instead listened to the player feedback they got and updated the game really often, and eventually pumped out some free DLC content and some paid DLC, which is really good, but I'll talk about it in the DLC segment. This segment is just quite brief because it falls kinda in the gameplay aspect. And it's the co-op. The co-op is just amazing in Dying Light. This is one of the few games where I actually do prefer the co-op mode instead of the single player mode. And I just wanted to play alone and record some footage for this video, but my friend wanted to play as well, so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And we had such a fucking blast. So most of the footage is from like co-op sessions, and just some are single player sessions. So just as I was saying, because the gameplay is just so fun, you don't even have to do the story or even enjoy the story to like have fun with the game. It is 10 times better with friends.
I'll check out what's inside.
And one thing I do have to mention is I have a thing where I can't say like the game is good with friends, because quite frankly every single game out there is fun with friends. Like you can play the most dog shit game out there, like literally the worst game out there. If it has co-op and you're playing with the right people, you can have the best time of your life. Even though like you can't even start up the game, even if there's just co-op that you and your buddy can sit in the main menu and just vibe to the music or talk shit, the game could be a 10 out of 10 just because you have the right company. So I can't really say like, oh, the game is good with friends, because like in my opinion, frankly, any game with the proper company is just a really good game, I guess. So since I mentioned that the story is pretty bland, I think it's only fair if I summarize the entire story, as I don't want to bore everybody here with the entire story. I thought about making like this video about talking about the whole story and why it's good, but I can agree, I love this game to death, but even I can agree that the story is bland, and I think it'll be better if I just summarize it for the people who don't know the story, haven't even played the game. So you're playing as Cal Crane, who is tasked to track down a man who is trying to blackmail the GRE, who he is working for. He goes to the city of Haran and meets other survivors such as Jade, Bricken, Raj, Kareem, Spike, and many more. Right from the beginning of the game, Cal Crane is infected, and the only thing that can slow that process down from you turning into a zombie is antizin, that is highly demanding in this world. So basically the story is that you group up with the survivors you met, like Jade, Kareem, Spike, Bricken, and shit like that, and Cal Crane as a character and you as the player maybe start to realize that the GRE are maybe not as good as they originally said they were. So you're starting to realize, like, shit, these are real people living in the city of Haran. And you lose some of your friends in the middle of the game, and then at the ending you basically meet the generic bland villain who yells out your name, and then at the end you decide you're no longer gonna be working for the GRE and you're gonna be staying with the survivors, trying to help them through this zombie apocalypse. And I have to say, even though how bland this story is, I think it's pretty okay. Like, it's nothing spectacular. Even me, who dick rides the shit out of this game, I can say that this game is, like, the story of this game is pretty okay. But what is really good actually is the DLC that I'm gonna be talking about right now. So there are a handful of DLCs for Dying Light. Most of them are just small DLCs, such as cosmetics, like for your car, for your character, for different weapons, maybe for grenades or whatever, maybe some challenge maps, or just like a small overhaul to the game, such as like the prison challenge map, or like Hell Raid, or like Bozak Hordes DLC. And you might have asked yourself, skins for a car in a zombie game? Yep, you get a fucking car in the best DLC ever, The Following. This DLC is so fucking good for Dying Light. It's basically the same as the base game, but just 10 times better. The story? It was shit? Alright, fuck that shit, bro. Here's a fucking car you can drive. You can drive over the fucking zombies. You can do whatever you want. You can have fucking turbo on it. You can have a fucking flamethrower on it. You can purchase armor on it. And you know what? We won't bore you out with cutscenes. Everything is just gonna be pure gameplay. Just run over zombies, just kill a bunch of fucking zombies, just do whatever the fuck you want. There won't be any cutscenes whatsoever. But basically the DLC continues after the main game, where people in the tower are slowly running out of antizin, and Crane has heard a rumor that apparently there is a cure in a small town outside of Haran, because one of the survivors came to Haran and told them basically that there's a cult that has that Zaza that makes you not transition into a zombie. So he investigates and notices the small cult who have some sort of Zaza that reverts the transformation to a zombie. He does some quest for the cult, and in order to meet the mother, who is the leader of the cult, to provide that Zaza for the rest of the survivors back in Haran. After doing some jobs for them, he eventually meets the mother, who turns out to be a volatile, and she says to Crane that there is no cure and that she is the living proof of it. Basically, she just keeps hitting that Zaza so she can still think and speak like a human being, but her body is still transforming into a zombie, basically a volatile, because that's like the end stage of the transitioning to a zombie thing. So there are 3 outcomes of this DLC. There are 3 different endings. You can either accept what the mother has to say and that she's speaking facts, that there is no cure, that she's the living proof, and you're like, yep, we need to bomb everything. So one of the endings is where you bomb everything, everyone dies. But then the other one is where you deny everything she has to say and you kill her and you try to get out with the Zaza. But it turns out she was right, and Cal Crane transforms in the daylight and murders some children, I think, something like that.
What's going on?
And then there is a secret ending to this DLC. Basically, there's a small truck on this road, and if you find the codes throughout the map, if you insert them inside this military truck, you blow up the entire map. So if you want, you can literally end the game or the DLC as soon as you start it. So I think that's a pretty cool secret ending. But I have to say, I do not like any of the endings whatsoever in this DLC. Like, this man, fucking Cal Crane, has tried so hard to save everybody. Not even in the main game, but in this DLC, he like goes hard and beyond. Fucking kills a bunch of zombies. He tries to help the cult. He tries to help all the different people. All just for him to be like, yeah, there is no cure. Alright, yeah, let's just fucking kill everybody. I'm not 100% sure, but I highly think and know that the ending where Cal turns into a volatile is the canon ending, I'm pretty sure, because I've seen a lot of videos about talking about him turning into volatile, which isn't a credible source, but I remember seeing somewhere that like the developers of the game said that, oh yeah, he turned into a volatile, because I think there's an Easter egg in the second game where like, oh, Kyle was a really good hero, but then he turned bad or like something like that. So either way, if he turned into a volatile or died, I think the ending for him was really bad. This is one of my favorite games of all time. I have played this game so many times, I've literally lost count. Like, I thought I would eventually get bored of this game, as I have already played this so many times. Like, I have over like 20-30 hours on each save file, and this is just on my PC, on my Steam account. I also have played on the PS4, and I'm pretty sure on the Xbox One as well. I can't recommend this game enough. Like, this game is so good. If you have money, literally just buy it. It comes often on sale. It's like $5. You get all the DLC you need. And even if you don't like zombie games, you're gonna have a fucking blast just running, killing them, or not even fucking killing them, just doing the parkour. Easily you'll have like 20-50 hours, even if you don't like it. That's like the worst case scenario. If you love it, you're gonna have way more hours with this game. So you can imagine how much I love this game. Basically me just sitting here and talking about it for like 15 minutes straight on how good it is. But you can guess how excited I was when I heard that they were making a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time. And I got so excited that I pre-ordered it, and I had the plan to stream it, and oh boy. So after the amazing game that is Dying Light, Techland set out to make a sequel, Dying Light 2. And it's just not as good as the first one. I made a video a couple months back how I felt at the time about Dying Light 2 when it first came out, and now that I have finished the game and returned to it, like played it some more times, I can't say that I like it as much as I originally did. And if you want to see what I had to say in that video, the link will be down in the description if you want to give me some extra money. One thing I have to say before I started to record the footage for this video is that I played some Dying Light before the update that they released like 2 weeks ago at the time I'm recording this, I think. And they added a lot of bug fixes. They changed the combat, and overall the update is about 25 gigabytes, I think. And the update brought some new skins, like finally showing some love to my boy Crane with a skin for Aiden as Crane, and then adding a Crane paraglider skin to the existing paragliders in the game. And I think it's a pretty cool touch, especially with people who own Dying Light 1 and 2. That's how you get this Crane skin, for as far as I'm concerned. But what I don't understand is that why some games like are on Steam, but when you launch them it brings you to another fucking launcher, and then you need to download that launcher in order to play that game. But when you finally download that launcher and you try to play your game, you have to download another fucking launcher to download that game in order to fucking play the game you bought on Steam originally. I'm sorry for the little rant, but like I'm just so pissed. So many games. I don't know how Dying Light 2 is on PC. Like so many games, just like Far Cry 3. I wanted to play some Far Cry, and then when I have it on Steam, and when I want to play it, it brings me to the Ubisoft launcher, and then I need to download the Ubisoft launcher and shit like that. It's just so annoying and unnecessary. With that rant out of the way, they updated some of the ragdolls for Dying Light 2 that fits more with like the first game. They added some new kick animations and a lot of other things. Like, I think this overall is a really good update. It adds a lot of small things, and the good thing about it is that the small things eventually add up to like a whole big update, and just gives a little bit of a better experience with the game overall. So with this update in mind, I had to postpone this video even longer to compare like how Dying Light 2 was before the update and to see how it is after the update. And I have to say that the update really helped the game. I thought that with playing Dying Light 2 with the update now, it feels a lot more enjoyable to play it overall, but it still has some massive issues in my opinion. One thing though, I don't know if this was already in the game or not, but when I was recording some footage, I noticed that you can see the big guy here that I'm fighting. It's a human being. He gets into this toxic area, and when he comes back, he's being a zombie. And I think that's a really cool detail, showing like the humans, because I know there was that in Dying Light 1 as well. There was some scripted scenarios, I think, where humans turn into zombies and you have to fight them. But like in this game, I don't remember seeing anything of that. So if the update brought this on, this is a huge step forward to how the game should be originally. Thought it was like, oh nice, they finally updated and showed some love to the game. But as soon as I saw that, I just saw this buggy ass corpse that doesn't even fucking move. Another great addition I think they added into this update is that you can see the X-ray of like the different zombie bodies if you hit them when you crack their skull or like their rib cage and shit like that. That was originally in Dying Light 1, and as far as I remember, again, I don't remember it being in Dying Light 2, so I think it's a nice addition. I think overall the update is a really welcome addition to the game, but in my opinion I think it's just too late. Like it's almost been a year since the game released and since the last time I played it and streamed it, and I think they should have just added this shit long ago. Like just delay the game and add these features at launch, you know, so we don't have to wait a year for a big update to get these improvements of life. I'm kind of sick and tired of how games are these days, where they just release the game because the company are like, yeah, you have a deadline now, you need to release the game. How it is already, I don't care if it's finished or not, we have a deadline, it's set to launch at like 17th of February, you know, you need to launch it then, and then they just do it and then they release a big update like a year later. No, just fucking delay the game, do the shit you want to do, the original vision you have for the game, and everybody's gonna profit off of it. So the gameplay of Dying Light 2 is somewhat of an improvement from the first game, but at the same time it's really a downgrade as well. Stamina bar from the first game makes a return in this game, but in the worst way possible. I understand that they were trying to make the player feel like really slow and like weak in the beginning of the game and like progressively getting stronger as the Aiden character is doing, but they just fumbled the bag. It was way better in the first game, because in the first game the parkour was kind of slow and tedious, like I said, but it was still fun to do in the beginning. Like in this game, I don't understand, you can't even hold onto a ledge for more than 10 seconds. Like apparently Aiden, the main character of this game, is apparently like super genetically enhanced with like the experiment he had as a kid, and he can jump up like 20 meters up into the air like a fucking alien, but he can't hold onto a ledge for more than 10-15 seconds. Bro, even if it's like a life or death situation, even not then, even if I'm just doing basic parkour, I'm pretty sure even I could hold onto a ledge for at least a minute. Just fucking explain to me, look at this, not a single fucking human being on planet Earth can jump this high. And most of you are gonna say like, yeah, but he's mutated and he's not really human. Well, if he can jump this far, why can't he hold on to a ledge for more than 10 seconds? And also do get it, because like Aiden is supposedly infected now, so his strength is not what it used to be, but come on, bro. 10 fucking seconds, just have it at 1 minute in the beginning and then just make it larger as it goes on. The whole concept of Dying Light is doing parkour, and the parkour feels kind of off. Now, don't get me wrong, like the parkour does feel weird, but in some rare moments it actually feels really good when Aiden is jumping onto the ledges you want to, when he's sliding like you want him to be, like when he's sliding over like some openings or like through small gaps in the walls. At times it can be really good. They've also added now a parachute, which is called the paraglider, and it makes sense since the game is placed in like a big city with tall buildings, and of course players are gonna want to like jump off the building and activate the paraglider, and for the most part I don't have an issue with it. I think it floats nicely with the gameplay of the game, where you get some momentum, get a drop on the enemy, go to an outpost, just fucking parachute into the outpost. It's really cool stuff. What I do have a problem with is that they added the grappling hook from the first game here as well, but they made it somehow 10 times worse. And I understand that some people think the grappling hook was a bad idea in the first game because it removed most of the parkour aspect of the game, but I think it was fairly balanced in that game because you only got to use it twice before you leveled up all your skills. When you were max level, you could basically just spam the grappling hook 24/7, but like when you got it first on, you could only use it like twice. And in this game it's kind of similar. Like if you think about Dying Light 2 as its own game with this grappling hook, then yeah, it's a really good grappling hook, and I think it floats well with the like style of gameplay they went for in this game. But when you compare this grappling hook to the first one, because let's face it, it's a sequel to one of the better zombie games, and it just doesn't feel right with me. Like at the same time, I do like the grappling hook to some extent, but like the combat and the ragdoll physics are practically the same from the first game now after the update. And you have bows, sword, knuckles, and the new addition of a crossbow. I do like the crossbow, but I do not see it as a replacement for the guns from the first game. Like, there are just practically no guns in this game, just melee weapons, which I will never understand, but I think they just wanted to make the game harder from the first game. I loved the guns in Dying Light 1 as I felt they were pretty rare, like normally when you were playing the game, and they were kind of common later on in the end game, but it made them balanced in the way that the ammo was pretty expensive. Like, it wasn't too expensive, but it was pretty expensive. And then you usually got the guns from like care packages, or you got them from other human beings, which made them more valuable and rare to have. I kind of have mixed feelings about having no guns in Dying Light 2, because at the same time when I compare to the Dying Light 1 guns, I'm like, yeah, they were kind of busted, but they were so fun to use. And I kind of understand that they didn't want them, but at the same time I'm like, please just let us have one fucking gun at least. I'm happy to see that they still managed to get co-op somehow in this game, but it's just fucking broken. First of all, I don't understand why the co-op isn't crossplay, because I have the game on PS5 and most of my friends have it on PC. So I would really want to play co-op with them, right? But apparently you can't. Like with this update, apparently they were like, oh, you can play co-op now in crossplay. I'm like, oh cool, I can finally play some Dying Light 2 co-op with my friends on PC, you know, record some footage. But nope, it's just like, oh, if you have a PS5 you can play with your PS4 buddies. I'm like, bro, nobody's fucking using a PS4 anymore. As the story is so massively different from the first game, with now the player being able to choose the dialogue option, it's so broken in co-op. The host of the lobby is the one making the decisions, so you're playing with like 3 other friends and they want to pick the other options. All 3 of them want to pick the other options, and you decide as the host of the lobby, decide to pick the other option. It's your option that's gonna go through. I kinda understand it because it's like your game, your host lobby, so you get to decide, but what's the point of having co-op if the other players have no impact on the story, right? I think you should have done like something with like Far Cry 3, just make something smaller with the co-op, you know. The main issue here is, let's say you and your friend want to play the game and experience the story together, right? The host of the lobby is the one making the decisions then. Yeah, of course you can come to some agreement on like Discord, or if you're talking through the game, like, oh, we want to pick this option, you know, but the host of the lobby is the one making the decisions, right? And if the other player doesn't agree, he will have to play the game in single player to get the decisions he wants. Now take this with a grain of salt, because I've only played a handful of co-op on Dying Light 2, because I only have one other friend that owns the game on PS5 and I could not play it with anybody else. But I've had so many friends that have Dying Light on PC and they've played co-op and they just say it's the most dog shit there is. So the co-op works in the first game because the story is on rails. There aren't any decisions, so you and 3 other friends can literally just sit back, watch the cutscenes, understand what is going on, what you need to do, and everybody's on the same page. So I can't really talk about Dying Light 2 without talking about the even blander story than the first game. It literally baffles me how when they announced the game they were like, yeah, we heard you, the first game, the story was shit, so we're gonna focus everything on the story. It's gonna be so great. You get dialogue options now, you impact how the world is and shit like that. But the story is just so bad, bro. Like, I can't defend it. The story is just so bad. Like, I really don't understand it. So like I said, you have some dialogue options now, but they just impact the story so little. The only real decisions you make is like, what faction will control like the different water towers or the safe zones. You basically have the peacekeepers and the survivors, I think. And even then, it doesn't even impact the story. Like, I think Lawan, one of the characters in the game, is saying like, oh, I hope you pick the next water station for the survivors, or you pick one for the peacekeepers. It doesn't affect the story whatsoever. The only difference it makes is how the city is being made. So basically the peacekeepers are like the government police faction or whatever. So if you decide to give most of the buildings to them, you're gonna have more weapons, more grenades. You even get the crossbow that I mentioned if you side with them. And if you decide to side with the survivors, give the majority of the buildings to them, you'll basically have more parkour options such as airbags, zip lines, and some vents that let you fly in the air a little bit longer with the paraglider. Like, I remember them saying like, oh, the decisions you will make and like what you will say to a certain character will really affect the story and shit like that. It's just pure bullshit. Like, yeah, sure, there are some different endings. I think there's like 6 different endings, but It doesn't matter, the endings are practically the same. It's almost like New Vegas, you know, where you sided with like Dr. House, so the slideshow is a little bit more differently. And it's the same shit here in Dying Light 2. Like, you don't care about these factions. They're literally just in your way for your main goal, right? And who cares? Oh, the peacekeepers are finally having peace, or they're fucking killing civilians. Who cares? I don't care about them. It might seem like I'm really hating on the stories, and I'm probably hating on it, but to be fair, I really like this story, how it was set up in the first like 1 or 4 hours into the first like segment of the story. But as soon as you get into the big city, that's where the game just drags on. Everything just becomes so boring. It literally did the opposite of the first game, because in the first game, a lot of people were put down by the first area you start off with. It was like, oh, it's just too small and shit like that. But then when you got to the other city, you were like, oh shit, there's some bright colors here. There's way more open areas here. It's way more fun here. In this game, it's the opposite. And I think like, if I looked at the achievements, I would probably guess that like only 50% of players made it past the like first segment of the game. So you play as Aiden, who isn't that memorable, but it isn't like Crane was really all that memorable, even though I love that man to death. And there's only a handful of hints to Crane in the second game, which I really hate, because I feel Crane had a huge impact on the world, like with the infection on the apocalypse, but it's fine. So Aiden is a pilgrim, and I have played through this game twice now, and I didn't find any clue whatsoever what a pilgrim is. I had to Google what a pilgrim is, and I found out it's basically a motherfucker who travels the world. Yep. He just fucking travels the world, going from city to city and shit like that. I was wondering what a pilgrim is, because right from the get-go, everybody hates Aiden because he's a pilgrim. I'm like, why? And apparently it's just because they come and go. What? He's literally just traveling. Yeah, sure, he might be infected or whatever, but what? You should be thanking him. He might have some supplies from like fucking Chicago or like Paris or fucking, I don't know, any other part of the world, you know, who he can bring supplies from other countries, other cities to you, and you decide to treat him like some sort of fucking monster. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think they tried to do the same thing they did in the first game with Crane, where the player could basically insert himself into Crane, because Crane didn't know anything about the apocalypse, about the zombies, the tower, the survivors or whatever, so you could really feel for him and like learn new things along with him. But with Aiden, it's like they want you to insert yourself into his character with like everybody hating you, and then you need to earn their trust and shit like that. But it just doesn't work for me, because he already has some experience with traveling. You even meet Spike from the first game in the first opening hour of the game, and I don't know, it just, Aiden doesn't feel like a character. Another thing I don't understand is that Aiden's actor is voiced by another actor than Kyle Crane, but they sound so similar. If you listen closely to what Aiden has to say to all the other people, you can tell that he has a way younger voice than the original voice actor.
What, you find a bunch of old postcards or something?
What I don't understand is why they didn't just continue the story with Kyle Crane. Just make some shitty excuse that he apparently survived, that they reversed his transformation, just like they do in this game, where you can apparently transform, but then if you have the biomarker and take enough inhibitors, you can stop the transformation. I don't know, at first I was fine with them doing a new story, new character, new city, even though how much I love Kyle Crane. I'm like, yeah, if we're gonna do a new story, then it better be good. They said that they were gonna focus a lot more on the story, and I thought it would be really good, but their story is just so bland. So now it's a spoiler alert from here on out, because this is what makes this story so bland in my opinion, and makes it 10 times worse than the original game. So basically the main concept of the game is that you're Aiden and you were experimented on as a kid, and you have a little sister called Maya, and your main goal is trying to find her, because there was this man called Waltz that was experimenting on you and your sister, and you want to find him, kill him, and then eventually find your sister through him. But guess what? It turns out the main bad guy, Waltz, wasn't a bad guy, and he actually was trying to save your sister because she has an incurable disease. She has like cancer or something. But then there's a plot twist, because she isn't actually your sister. The main fucking goal of this game is finding your sister, and then when you find her, she dies because she has this incurable disease, and it turns out she wasn't even your sister, and the main bad guy wasn't even a bad guy. But oh no, we need to have some Michael fucking Bay action in here, so we just nuke the world, cause why not? I'm only briefly summarizing the entire story, and like how the main plot is, but I cannot talk about the whole story because it's just so dog shit. Basically, everything I just said is what happens. You don't need me to sit here for an hour and explain every single dialogue option to all the characters you meet, because it doesn't matter. In the ending, Aiden just goes out of there because, oh, his sister is dead. He's no longer gonna be in Villendor, the main map you are in. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna skedaddle out of here. I'm gonna go do something else. And then you get some cutscenes and slideshows of the different factions and the different characters you've saved and like what they do. It's like, what? Now, you've heard me rant and being like angry in my voice about the story and the whole game in general, but I still do think the game has its moments and it's a pretty okay game as it is. It's not a really good Dying Light sequel, but as its own game, it's really fine. It's a okay, good game, you know. What you guys have to understand is that I'm a big Dying Light fan, and I'm just stating my opinion and criticizing the game, like what I feel about it, what my thoughts are. I've played it 3 times now, 2-3 times I think now, and this is just my opinion. This is just how I feel about the game. If you like the game, you're more than welcome to do so. If you disagree with what I'm saying or like have issue with my opinion, I think you should really watch my video on opinions in video games to understand where I'm coming from. If you're interested, I'm gonna leave a link to that video as well, because I do really stand by that video on how people should approach to different opinions you have on games. Just quickly here, I cannot talk about the DLC for Dying Light. They've only made a handful of DLC now. They've added like a bloody event DLC, I think, but I'm not willing to buy that DLC. I don't have the deluxe edition or whatever, so I just played the main game, so I can't really say if the DLC is good or bad. The only thing I have played is the different community events they have, like Dropkick event they had, and like they had the bloody event where you just had to chop off limbs from different zombies in order to get the limited edition skin, I think, or something like that. So I can't really say if the DLC is good or bad. I'm sorry, I'm not willing to spend my hard-earned money on the DLC because I do not like the game that much to spend money on it. Overall, I think Dying Light 2 is a decent game, but nowhere near as good as the first one. I will never understand how the same people who made the first game made this game. It's really bizarre. Dying Light 2 can be fun at times, and if you really like the game, be my guest. I have no issues with that. Even me who criticized the game, I can see myself sometime play it from time to time and actually enjoy it. The update helped the game massively, and it showed me that they actually do care about the game and they want to continue building upon it and releasing updates and listening to player feedback to improve the game from there. But like I said, it's a little bit too late. Just, you should have done it way earlier. Like, I should not be able to wait a whole year for a good update to fix some of the issues with the game and just improve the game in general. I think if they continue to release updates just like they did with the first game, I think just give them time and the game could maybe reach the heights of the first game, but only time will tell of how the developers will continue to work on this game. So I want to thank everybody yet again for the recent support on all the videos. Like my recent Hitman video just reached 1,000 views. I'm really thankful for that. It means a lot, and I will forever say this even if it becomes tedious and people might think that I'm a broken record because I always say thank you, but I will always say it because it does really mean to me, and I am a person that really wants to let people know how I feel. So yet again, thank you guys. Hope everyone is doing well out there, having a good day, and I hope to see you in the next video. And here's the meme.
What was? No, I saw you put something in your pocket. What was that? What did you put in there? What was it that was in your pocket though? Because it seemed interesting. It seemed like really interesting. What was it? Just turn it on.